We're out here making promises that we haven't checked can be fulfilled yet. And we're doing it over and over again, no matter what you tell us. Operations-wise, that looks awful. We're inconsiderate. From a sales standpoint, it's, what do you mean you can't do it? There's lots of tools available for you to find a way. Don't tell me no. Call me back when you have the yes.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Build, the podcast where innovation meets collaboration in the world of construction. We bring together thought leaders and industry experts to explore the cutting-edge ideas transforming construction equipment, supply chains, building materials, and workforce productivity.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Fero, the revolutionary last-mile logistics platform, redefining how high-value, time-sensitive construction deliveries get done. Need it fast? Need it right? Fero.
So today we're bringing you a guest with over 2 decades of experience in the construction rental industry. Someone who has not only mastered sales, but deeply understands the operational side of the business. Known for his methodical thinking, strategic approach, and ability to drive both process and productivity, he's helped companies optimize their operations and maximize revenue. Now, taking the experience to a whole new level as a National Business Development Manager for Fero, leading the change in transforming last-mile logistics for the construction industry. His transition into the role is a testament to his ability to recognize industry gaps and develop real solutions to make an impact. Get ready for a conversation packed with insights on sales, operations, and the future of construction logistics. Please welcome Carlos Porras to the show.
I feel like we need like some big music for you, Carlos. You've got one
Well,
hell
I
of
want
a
to thank you
background,
guys
man.
for everything. I'm going to go now because this is the time to go out on top. It's a great introduction, man. It's very generous. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sounds great on paper. I do the same thing for myself, and then I read it and I go, well, is that me? I'm sure that's not me. We've worked together for known each other almost 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been riding the roller coaster, ups and downs, both sales, ops, chaos and joys. So it's good to be working again with you.
Likewise.
Super excited about the partnership and what we can all develop together. So I'm really excited to have you on the team, man.
Just curious, for my own interest, so you guys have known each other forever. What was, and just keep it brief, but what was the first kind of meeting or working together, and were you guys ever like competition for each other, like in a truly competitive way, or was it always friendly?
Yeah. Scott was a sales rep for a particular location of a rental company. I was the inside sales guy at a different location. And then I got the opportunity to join him as an outside sales rep together at his location. And so we were the only 2 outside sales reps at that store, but we had spoken over the phone a few times before then on other deals. And I quickly realized this was a tennis match at the sales meetings, that I'm just a bystander to watch because Scott's just personality is so strong. And so was our manager at the time. And so they're playing tennis with numbers that, I couldn't even perceive would produce them. So right away, I knew the bar was set, and he mentored me a little bit, but God doesn't have time for that too much at that age. He's moving 100 miles an hour. The train that moves, not the station. And so I learned to do the best I could before I realized, there was a different capacity for me that I was better suited for. And so, yeah, we competed in a sense of putting our numbers up at sales meetings, but we were on the same team, and we wanted to help our ops teams support us the best way possible. We had best interests in mind. And so, and that evolved over time, but that was the start of it.
Do you concur, Scott? Is that how it went down?
I'm going to go with Carlos. Man, he has a memory like an elephant. To his point, at the age we were, I was running so fast, I was about trying to produce numbers. You get it. It's like almost a car ride, right? You're driving 90 miles an hour. You couldn't even tell somebody what you just passed. So he brings up stories sometimes, and I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me just pause. See if I remember. I think I got about 80% of that down. And then I go. But yeah, I remember we were in sales together. I remember the conversations with myself and our manager at the time. And then from there, you know, I branched off, pulled out of sales, had an opportunity to go into operations. And then from there, I'm not really sure how we reconnected when we started working at the same branch and I was the manager and you were inside sales or ops. I can't, again, you're going to have a better memory. But what I also remembered is I was always able to trust Carlos, right? Because I know he's a thinker, where I was like, okay, we have an obstacle. And he was always one person that says, oh, let me get in there with you. Let me try to figure it out. You know, almost to the point where you would write out plan after plan. And I'm like, okay, just give me like one option, not 17. But one of the things I always, respected about you is you were never fearful to take on a challenge. You always embraced it. You're like, hey, if there's something hard, a Rubik's Cube, push it to my desk. I'll try to figure this out. So as a sales manager, as a branch manager, as a leader, you want to surround yourself with people that take ownership and you want to help foster their growth. And to have somebody like step up and have the desire for a manager, like you can't, or a coach, you cannot coach desire. Either people have it or they don't. And to have somebody on the team that like had that level of desire was really refreshing for me. And it was, really positive for our team.
All right, well, let's dive into some meat, shall we? Today we want to focus quite a bit on just the kind of the in-house versus third-party debate, debunking industry misconceptions about third-party hauling. That's kind of the general consensus. Are there any initial opinions that really come to mind, Carlos, Scott, when that topic is mentioned?
Yeah, lots of opinions. Just because having the experience of being on both ends of that argument, whether it was in an operations role or in a sales role, and it takes you back to the old adage of sales versus ops. You need me is what both sides say. And so, I can think of a couple right off the bat that myth exists. And I think the first of which is probably understanding that a salesperson is very far removed from the operations schedule of the day, trucking capacity wise.
What are you talking about? You guys just make it work. It's just magic. I've got someone, they need something, you do it, right? That's
right. We're out here making promises that we haven't checked can be fulfilled yet. And we're doing it over and over again, no matter what you tell us. Operations wise, that looks awful. We're inconsiderate. From a sales standpoint, it's, what do you mean you can't do it? There's lots of tools available for you to find a way. Don't tell me no. Call me back when you have the yes. And so, that's the starting point, is working through that. And then that'll unlock various other challenges and myths that are in place. But right away, it's the old Seinfeld episode, I had a reservation, right? What does a reservation mean?
But you don't know how to hold the reservation.
You don't know how to hold it. Exactly. And that the funny thing is that that's existed for decades in this industry. Decades. And it never gets better. It changes in the interim. It gets terrible, gets a little bit good, gets a little bit better. People move, the churn happens. Whether it's rental industry or construction or distribution or whatever that is, your dispatchers change, your salesmen change. And then you're back to square one, starting over again with different personalities. And so nobody's quite seemed to figure out how to make it stable. But people like Fero are coming in to provide a tool that makes it a lot easier and simple when you get to that point of struggle.
Scott, does it give you any big flashbacks? You've kind of been on, I guess, more of the sales side. You've done the ops side as well, but are there any things that really stand out in your mind? Stories, war stories of what do you call it? You call what's operations? You have a nice acronym for it.
It's kind of negative, but you can call it SPT. And that's what the sales team sometimes like, oh, you called the sales prevention team. And they're going to tell you what they can't do rather than they can do. Right? And then you have this operation mindset and going, oh, the sales rep. The sales rep's kind of like the gunner inside of a torpedo. All they want to do is shoot the torpedo, but they have no idea that they're not within range. So all they do is blow things up and just, give up your position. So there's this balance between like, okay, I understand operations wants to under promise and over deliver, but the sales team just wants to say, just go blow something up, right? Like I need to get an order. I need to take care of the customer. So it's like you're both going at the same path, to the same destination, taking two different paths at two different speeds, right? And you have to work together. You have to make sure that from a sales side, you understand your capacity and or range, right? And from an ops side, you have to understand you have to basically blow stuff up in order to make headway, right? And the challenge was always, right, between the two, how to, number one, take care of our customer, not my customer or your customer, right? When we think about building teams, it's never about I and me, it's about us. So bridging that gap between my customer and your customer is the first hurdle I think, we always had to try to overcome. And then hopefully once you have that collective mindset, then it starts to go on, okay, what can we do? What, to your point, Carlos, what resources do we have? Is it 4 trucks, 1 rollback, and a couple manager vehicles? Sales team, can we push the delivery window out from everything at 6 a.m. to maybe a few pieces at 8 a.m. and give us like a 2-hour window? Those are the things that, like Carlos, I know you can reflect back, kept us up at night, both from a sales and an operational mindset.
So taking it from a perspective of third party then, now that we kind of have ops and sales on the same page, so what is the argument for and against for using in-house resources versus third party in your all's experience?
The argument is we own assets, we being construction company, rental company, whoever that may be. We currently own assets to do that in-house, and we've spent a lot of money on labor to operate those assets. And so we need to find a way to make it happen with them. In some cases, there's a particular rental company out there who, if you took their trucking alone, aside from their business, that trucking company would be the 8th largest logistics provider in the country.
Wow.
And I think the number's even bigger than that. So they're going, hey, we've got these assets. What do you mean you need to hire an outside hauler to do that? That's added cost breaking into our profit margins. Figure it out. In the meantime, there's other considerations that beg the question, or not the question, but the phrase that goes something like this. Don't show me the labor, show me the baby. That's what the stakeholders want to say, whether it's the salesman or a vice president or a district manager or whoever that may be. I don't just make it happen, right? And try to use our assets while you're at it, please. Don't spend any extra money. In the meantime, you got a dispatch team pulling their hair out going, they only understood me. Nobody gets me. And then you've got tools like us, like Fero, that are available to say, I'm here to bail you out. And can you please understand, stakeholder, that this isn't that much of an investment to bail that out, add more capacity, and then reassign your trucking to more priority orders or pickups or whatever that may be. So yeah, the challenge is don't use outside haul, but make it happen at the same time magically. So you almost have to go behind the scenes to use the outside haul or prove a point for it.
Well, and that's also comes into where, when I thought about Fero, when I was developing this concept, I lived that life, right? Where outside hauling, negative line on your P&L, right? Reduce. So what we'd have to do is we'd say, okay, if I look at my fixed asset costs, right? I know I got this expense for these trucks and these employees and drivers, right? I've got to manage the flexibility of, different seasons of the industry. But then at the end of it, our branch people were like, I just got to take care of the customer. Sales reps, I got to get something out to them, right? To Carlos's point, the end user thinks everything is sitting on the ready line with a bow all washed and saying, oh, pick me, I'm the next one to go out. But really what's ended up happening is majority of orders come in at 4:00. They want it next day at 6. And you're scrambling to figure out what can I pick up from a job site, turn really quick and get out, because your utilization on your fleet is probably in, hopefully around 70% or better. right? You don't want it sitting because you're, in rental, you're a rental company, not a storage company. So it's like, get it out. But then I started looking at too, I'm going, okay, I've got these resources, 53-foot tractors, trailers, rollbacks, but all I need is a 2-inch trash pump. And so it's like, wait a second, I'm using a large asset because it's what I have, but I'm delivering something so insignificant with regards to size. But to the end user, a trash pump is not insignificant when I have a hole full of water and I got to get it somewhere, right? And in that case, we don't need a rollback, or we don't need to say, hey, we have 5 trucks and those trucks are busy till 12 o'clock. What can we do? It's like the sales rep comes in, we tell the customer, you can come will call it, or can you plug your hole until 2 o'clock so that we can get you a trash pump to pump out your water? Like, each one of those are not optimal options. And so going back to what Carlos was saying, it's like, yes, there's a time and a place and there's a reason for internal resources, right? You control the branding, you can control hopefully the safety and the way the units actually get delivered to the customer. You have a company representative with their shirt on, and the marketing, to your point, Carlos, you take that same company that's the 8th largest trucking company, think how many billboards are circling around, right, that people are getting eyes on. So I totally get it, right? But I think as we continue to elevate and innovate, we're hoping that the industry will start taking a different look at, from a different lens and say, do I really need all these internal fixed asset costs? Are we big enough, or are we well known enough that the sticker on the side of our delivery vehicle is not as important as our equipment getting there on time and working safely? And that's where, I wanted to challenge myself, and I'm challenging the industry to say, hey, there might be a spot here to fractionalize some of your pain to an entity that can deliver the same standards to your end users, and everybody wins. That was the thing, I always looked at was like, why is third-party hauling seen as that taboo, right? From operations and finance, that's a bad thing, right? And you look in some things, and again, I'm kind of going off lane here, but whether it's real estate, it's like, I got 25 million in debt. Oh my gosh, but I got 40 million in assets. It's like I'm making money off that debt, so it's not scary. And it goes back to that. Sometimes maybe it takes money to make money, and how do we diversify our resources? So, kind of curious to see what your opinion is on that taboo.
Yeah, exactly? Why is third-party hauling taboo from your experience, Carlos?
I wish we would stop using the term third-party hauling. It makes it sound like 2 other people before that solution couldn't get it done. And that's a bunch of I can't when a stakeholder hears that. And so immediately you've got 2 levels of I couldn't do this before you say here's the solution. So as easy as that misnomer getting changed to something catchy like Fero it instead of use a third party, I think psychologically starts changing the game a little bit. That stakeholder went through something bad at some point in their career with third-party hauling. Either their hand was slapped for overspending and not justifying that overspend, or they had a bad experience with third-party haulers who showed up in pajamas and flip-flops and were completely unsafe, or they had an incident that caused a near miss or worse, and they swore that they would never repeat that again by allowing a third-party hauler to solve their problem.
Yeah.
And they don't have time to share those stories with whoever wanted to pull the trigger on that third-party hauler. So the answer is no, we don't do that. Until you give an opportunity to somebody to save the day, so to speak, or make your team more productive, and then you change your mentality about them, which is why I think Fero is a little different in that we're a people-first company behind the technology that you might find valuable. We're going in front of you, trying to give you a reason to trust us and show you that we stand behind what we're offering you. And whether that's working together in the community, charitable efforts, sponsorship opportunities, or something as simple as a lunch for your team. We care about you making a decision to use us as opposed to being forced to use a bot or some other no-face solution.
This is kind of an intangible thing for me, is that, those folks who have a bad taste in their mouth about, using what's called third parties, is there any way to measure some of the negatives to not using a third party when you need it? Like, because there's a circumstance where it's like, it needs to get out, but we only use our resources. So it goes out, it gets there at 4, but the customer really needed it by noon. So we're 4 hours late in the customer's eyes. And it could have happened if you used an outside resource. Is there any tangible way to track that or see, are we losing customers because we are being too constrictive with the assets we're using when moving equipment and assets?
Are you speaking from our customer side or from a provider?
Either.
Yeah.
I mean, just kind of
There
your general
is.
opinion.
Yeah, there is. Everybody shares similar metrics. They just have different vocabulary for them. But your delivery cost recovery is one. So that's a KPI that's managed by some companies. They might call it something different, but at the end of the day, it's that. Is it 100%, which means we got the lights on in my apartment, but we didn't go out to eat at all? Or is there a surplus, which means now we're able to pay the rest of the bills after we got the light paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's another one that's on-time delivery percentage. What percentage of the deliveries were on time and what percentage were beyond 30 minutes to an hour late? Same thing for service response. So there's those KPIs in place. The only problem is trash in, trash out.
Yeah.
So if you get in terms of the data, so if you kind of pencil whip your way into 100% or 120%, and then your on times are 98%, and you show a customer a dashboard that's got this big bad number, nobody cares about the ones that you erased and slid under the rug. But it happens every day, and all the major players will admit it to you.
Any opinions on your end there? How to account for basically losing customers, losing revenue because you're not using all the resources at hand, not just the internal ones?
I think most business, and especially in the construction business, it's a relationship-based business, right? How well you have a relationship with your customer is going to dictate their opinion of your service, right? Because there's a lot of providers out there, whether rental, building materials, construction companies, subcontractors, right? All of them are going to get the work done, right? Some have higher quality standards than others, but it's always really about when I have a problem, who's there to get me out of it? Who's going to create solutions? Who's going to, the yes rather than I can't or can I adjust in the frequency? And I think what ends up happening is, in business, we pigeonhole ourselves to the resources, the mindset that we've created, right? So example, I have this type of truck. I have this many resources. I can do this much confidently.
Yeah.
Right? And what ends up happening, it becomes the routine. And when we get locked into a routine, it's almost like being a horse with blinders on. We just kind of run what's in front of us and we don't take any peripheral vision. And we start to lose sight of actually what our costs are, right? You have a national customer that has fixed delivery rates. You have to work in with those parameters. And then you realize every time I turn the ignition onto a vehicle, it costs me 3 times that much.
Mm.
And there's some things you can control there, right? Okay, can I get a more efficient delivery resource? Could I stack orders on top of each other to help offset when one delivery is a winner and the other one is not so favorable, right? And grab efficiencies. But at the end of the day, it's kind of why do I have to use the big truck to do something so small, right? Or you might be scrambling, we talked about scenarios sometimes in the industry, going back to rental where I was at. A customer will order a backhoe and they want a breaker. And let's say they want an 18-inch bucket and a 24-inch bucket. Okay. So the end user's I just call up the rental company or I call it my shop, right? If let's say you own it and say, hey, send this thing out tomorrow. I need to dig a hole. I need to break some concrete. The superintendent foreman's just get it here. I got work to do. Thinking, again, either the shop or the rental company has all products sitting on a shelf like a grocery store and say, oh, I'll pick that breaker, I'll pick that bucket, and everything's clean. Not knowing the chaos that's going on and going, oh, wow, the backhoe's at this location. The breaker's actually being repaired by a third, by a service, vendor. And I have the 24-inch and the 18-inch bucket is completely somewhere else. So for a dispatcher or a service department, they're like, wow, okay, so I've got 4 assets I need to collect. And only 2 are in one spot and the other ones are in other spots. But everything's got to get to one location. It's got to be tomorrow by 6, and it's 1:30.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to basically figure all this out? And oh, by the way, the 4 trucks that we have, they're already picking stuff up. They're already on a job site. So everybody's looking at it and going, okay, who's going to throw the 90-yard pass and into the end zone right now?
Can you see the PTSD on my face?
Right.
Yeah,
like, I'm
this
listening
it
to
looks
it
like
and
there's
I'm
war
like,
stories.
And these are
Man,
not just
you're taking me
equipment
back.
rental scenarios. I mean, I've got plenty of friends that own construction companies, and they're the same thing. They're like, hey, man, I own, 10 backhoes, 15 skid steers, a couple rollers. And I'm like, oh, where are they? They're all on jobs. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to delay this job and stop this one. And oh, by the way, my excavator is down in the shop and we're waiting for a part that, the vendor has, but we can't get anybody over to pick it up yet because he's fixing something else. And it's just like everybody's running around, and either the owner or the admin or even the billing person is like, well, I'll go. And then as soon as you leave, it's like battle. You just left your post. You've exposed us in an area where you were supposed to be monitoring. And they're like, yeah, but that's got to get done. Right?
Yeah.
I just got that call an hour ago.
Yeah, tell us about it. What happened?
There's a large infrastructure contractor, national contractor, who I met with yesterday to pitch our services. And he called me an hour ago and said, hey, I need you. I've got a trench roller and it's sitting broken. It's been down for 2 weeks and we got to get it to a shop, but it's at point A, which is way further than point B. And I think you can help me. So I'm in your app already and I'm looking at this. I need you to help me get past this step and I'm going to book it in a little while. And so I started asking him questions like, is that your roller? Is that somebody, are you renting it from somebody no, we own it. These guys just haven't, they've had plenty of opportunity to get this done. And I'm tired of looking at it. I want that thing gone. Should have been at the shop a long time ago. So it's an owned asset that every time they walk by it, somebody's going, why is that thing still here? Why haven't we, answer all the questions? And that takes me to this mentality of whoever that stakeholder is that knows it should have been gone. They've asked somebody to do it. That person hasn't had the time or whatever the reasons were. But they feel like that clash, that back and forth of misunderstanding is no different than my 18-year-old trying to explain to me why the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl halftime show was something of importance, right? I happen to think the guy's a great artist, but he's trying to explain to me something that in his mind is going, okay, boomer, I'm going to give it a shot, but you're not going to get it, right? It's very similar to that. Tell me what you want to tell me, but the thing is still here. Like, what happened? And did you run out of resources? What is it? And so walking in with something like what we offer hopefully makes that conversation a little easier. By the end of today, I'm hopeful that they're going to look back and go, man, we did that in an hour or 2 hours, how long it takes them to get that order in. And it's been here for 2 weeks. Now let's compound that times however many other moving challenges in our supply chain, in our machinery, whatever that is. Where else can we apply this solution is what my guy is going to say later this afternoon. And he's going to think of it, and it's going to turn into order number 2 and 5 and 7. We hope, but I know the guy, and I'm sure he's going to think that way. So think about how that applies to all 4 major verticals that we're after right now in construction, in fulfillment and distribution, the energy corridor, all these other factors. That's what gets me up in the morning to go, man, let me go find somebody else to preach this gospel to, because I know you're having that problem. It's not being, I'm not trying to be I don't know the word for it. I'm not trying to tell you that I know your business better than you, but I know that this problem exists across all
I think
lines.
the word you're looking for is asshole, right?
Yeah. Yeah, better you say it than me, but it can come off that way. Or used car salesman. I'm here to pitch my wares. Listen to what I have to say. And that can get you a door slammed in the face. But done right, all of a sudden it's things that make you go, kind of moment for them.
Yeah. Do you think we're at a potential, I don't know if it's so grandiose as a paradigm shift, but are we at the point where this idea of using other resources that we're ready for, like kind of a large scale solution? Like, are we at that point where like people understand that, hey, we can't always do things ourselves. There are resources now that are trustworthy, reliable. Are we at that point? And if not, what is the solve?
Scott's going to be biased in that answer, right? Because otherwise he wouldn't have, gone and built a rocket ship for all of us to jump on and ride, right? So I will answer it from what I've seen in my time here. And the answer is a resounding yes. And the app is great. It's simple to use. We can use all kind of superlatives for why it's helpful. But some of the adoption rates that happen as fast as we'd like to see them are happening without thought. Like, yes, let's go do that. Or the biggest compliment I'm getting so far is when somebody that I've pitched the solution to has referred it to somebody else. Hey, this guy told me to call you. He sent me a screenshot of your app. Tell me about it. That's phenomenal. And then they're placing an order. And then that napalm bomb grows into one event with 5 different outcomes to just absolutely blow it up. So that tells me absolutely. And I haven't had anybody tell me, it's not for me. I don't have a problem managing that. We do a really, really good job of it. So thanks for your time. You should go. They're out there. I'm sure we'll run into them at some point, but it's extremely rare right now.
It is. And I think, if we really break it down to a deeper level, and this was linear, I think, between all businesses, is disrupting the status quo of our culture and what we know to be safe and familiar, and going, I think we can innovate, right? And that's what we, coming on and having these conversations as this podcast hopefully grows, is we want thought leaders to say, what's going on in our industry right now? How can I, be the Elon Musk of my industry, because he's obviously doing some things right now, or how do I Steve Jobs the phone, right? Because if those innovators didn't just test the status quo and do risky things, we wouldn't be having this podcast right now. We wouldn't be able to call people from our pockets, right? We would still be on transmission lines that are underneath the ocean, right, from one continent to another. And it really comes down to, again, how do we innovate and get people to get uncomfortable, but still stay safe in the process?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the Fero, the reason that we built it for this industry, construction industry, is number one, we all came from this industry, right? We know what the foxhole smells like and tastes like in the war, not just because we watched Saving Private Ryan and like, oh, I know how that feels. Like, we were there, right? And to build it with the expectations that are required, right? The PPE standards, the urgency level, the consistency, right? Knowing the equipment, knowing why it functions this way and what it represents to the end user on the job when they don't have it working, right? Or you don't have your material to build because you got 15 guys sitting on a job and the GC's like, why aren't you done yet? Like, you don't want to be the company. It's like, oh, well, because I couldn't go pick this up, or we didn't have this because we needed, right? Or we ordered it, but it was the wrong stuff and we realized we need more and we had to go 2 hours to get it. So we lost productivity, right? So as we innovate and have more of these conversations, it's kind of saying like, let's kind of pause sometimes on like, the actual problem and say, okay, well, this thing will fix it. But it's like, are we going to adopt, right? Are we going to go to the deep end of the pool? Or are we going to kind of stay where our feet can touch all the time because it's safe? It's familiar. And it cools me off because I can at least dip my shoulders. It's like, oh man, you got to get to the deep end of the pool. There's some diamonds down there. Get your hair wet, go underneath. And now you're changing the industry. So that's kind of where I go with it. And, you know, I look at how do we debunk or how do we elevate people to sometimes, and I'll throw myself under the bus, get out of my own way of what I think to be right and what I think to be true, and take some feedback from some people with a different perspective. And I'm going, wow, I never knew my lenses were dirty.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping people will gravitate to, right? When they look at Fero, when they look at elevating their business or changing their business, and just saying, hey, I'm willing to get uncomfortable. And in the end, I'm going to reap the rewards of that uncomfortableness.
Well, I think we're getting close to time here. Carlos, do you have any other words of wisdom, any nuggets that you haven't thrown our way yet?
Yeah, maybe not a nugget, but just a perception in that there's a mental health aspect to this. There's team members in these companies that are feeling like they're misunderstood, they're overworked with these tasks to create magic. And by the way, I want to see that trick again and again and again and again. And you're gonna be here at 7 a.m. tomorrow and do it again, right? You're not. Somebody else needs to come in here. And that's an expectation that can wear on people. And in an age where work-life balance is something that people are trying to find resources to strike all the time, I don't think we should ignore that fact. And so to provide a solution that's not just an easy button, but it kind of helps you maintain that and get you back to balance, I think it's something that needs to be talked about. There are people in these companies that we're targeting to help who are having to fight 5 final bosses before they get to the end result, which is the order was delivered and the customer is using the machine, or the pallet is being broken down and the supplies are making its way to the labor right now, or whatever it is. Literally 5 final boss fights before you get to that point. And they're feeling like they've got to build their armory to fight those every day just to justify their existence. I'm passionate about it because it sucks.
Yeah, it's like they're getting 10x speed for doing all this work. They're getting nothing
telling
for
you.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. Dude, that's a great analogy, by the way. And they're supposed to build that character because that's what people in this position do. They fight for that side or that side or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that we're the best thing since sliced bread and that Fero is going to take all your cares away, because there's going to be times when you have a better solution than ours, and that's fine. But I'm just saying that if something as simple as turning and going, hey, I got an $89 fix for that problem, we just got to click this button. You want me to click it or not? Then that person can go back to like, hey, I can finish this lunch right now. Or I can go take that medication that I should have taken an hour ago. Or whatever it is. Or I can go home and like make dinner with my family. Like, imagine the impact of that. And that's something that's also getting me excited, is that if we can craft that message in that sense to those folks that are feeling marginalized, dude, I mean, the sky's the limit at that point.
You bring up a really good point, Carlos. And for a future podcast, I'll kind of throw a little nugget out there. We're going to be talking about things I think all businesses are challenged with, and that is recruitment, retainment, and empowerment of your people. I think we can have an hour and a half conversation about that. Many different businesses, right? Because at the end of the day, it is about your people, right? How are you supporting them, making them feel safe in a way where it's like, no, I know you're capable. There's accountability with that, that trust, and you're going to push them, but not to the point where they're just like, they dread coming in and they're like, to your point, Jerry, if you have 10X, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't feel like I can't breathe. And when you can't breathe, you can't be as productive. Right. And so my ask, and, you know, I want all the listeners to know, like, action item is like, what are you doing to inhibit your team's success? And then also, what do you continue to do day after day because you think it's safe and consistent when you should be challenging yourself and each other to look at a problem from a different lens to see if you can help elevate? And that's the Fero experience, right? That's what we're asking. We're asking you to get uncomfortable and trust, you know, a couple of guys on a podcast that says, hey, we've been there, we've done it. We can show you that it works. But if you don't take that initiative to say, let me try it, it's like, what side of history are you going to be on? And then as we wrap up JP2, I know, Carlos, we want to ask all our guests, because you make a really good point about people, mental health, right? We talked about this being a relationship business, and I hope all businesses are relationship and not just transaction as we get more and more into technology, AI, bots, everything else that is spinning around in front of us. You know, Fero is built on some core foundations, values that don't ever change. And the first one is servant leadership. Second one is humility. The third is unapologetic, meaning we stay in our lane. We're not trying to be everything to everybody. And the final one is taking care of our people, our customers, and our company, in that order. And I'd like to ask you, as one of our newest team members, you know, and I know we did this when we first started having this conversation, what are you passionate about in terms of servant leadership?
Appreciate you asking, because that's something that I reflect on pretty often. It's probably being okay with putting my pride aside to serve somebody else when the title on a business card tells you that's not my job. That's internally. Externally, it's putting my pride aside to know that there's been failures along the journey at different points, which could discredit somebody, whoever it is, not me, sellers, whoever. To put that aside and go, I'm going to build off of that and show you why what I see is good and it's real. So there's an internal tug of war that's happening mentally when it comes to servant leadership, that your body is telling you to pump your chest out, be prideful in taking ownership of you offering the best thing on the market, and you are the most confident person. But sometimes it's okay to say, I don't think that's the right solution for you, what I have, but I know somebody who can help. Let me give you this phone number to this other provider. And banking on karma in this industry rarely does you in wrong. It usually pays you back in one way or another. And that's a real thing. I believe in that. So, you know, when you're doing that and taking that mentality, then that servant leadership comes through while the receiver is driving home at the end of the day, thinking about how that hop skip led to a jump that helped. He wasn't able to, she wasn't able to, but it got me to yes. And man, I appreciate that. Let me call that person again, or let me use the app again, or whatever it is.
Well, cool, man. It's been a pleasure. Don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you've got a busy schedule. Listeners, I hope they enjoy. They can take some nuggets out of here that we've discussed and, you know, personalize it. Figure out.
Scott, thank you. You got to jump in, because if you leave it to me and Scott, we're going to take another hour. There's listeners out there that are probably gotten to their destination and, okay, I'm ready to get out of the car now.
Yep, wrap it up, gang. Yeah, no worries. Great chat here. Some really good insights. Really looking forward to, I'm sure we'll have you on again. Maybe bring you on with some other great minds in the industry that can bring some more insights. But
my pleasure. I'd love to do it.
Awesome. Well, let's call it there, gentlemen. Well, everyone, that is a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Build. We took away some real valuable lessons and insights, and I hope that you did as well.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would ask that you subscribe so you can never miss an update. If you're a thought leader looking to innovate in the construction industry, let's talk. We'd love to connect and hear your thoughts.
You can find Beyond the Build on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus anywhere else that you listen. And if you'd like to learn more about how Fero is changing logistics in the construction industry, please visit our website at feronow.com.
Once again, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, be humble, serve others, and make an impact.